Exploring Tomorrow's Transit is an effort to engage the public in Onondaga County in a discussion about their wants and needs related to public transit. Centro has partnered with the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council, or SMTC, to conduct this outreach, which is expected to take about a year and will include a variety of participation options, such as a survey, open houses, and community discussion meetings. To learn more about the SMTC and our role in transportation planning in Central New York, please visit our website at www.smtcmpo.org and click on the About Us tab. For the Exploring Tomorrow's Transit project, the SMTC is exploring how Centro can better meet our diverse community's wants and needs around transportation. This may include changes to the current bus system and existing routes, as well as changes in geographic coverage and service frequency. Such potential changes include mobility services beyond Centro's traditional bus service, like on-demand services, bike and scooter shares, and bus rapid transit. This effort is a continuation of a conversation that has been going on over the past few years about how transportation should evolve to best serve our community. Over the past 5 years, Centro and the SMTC have conducted surveys and studies that included extensive public involvement, receiving thousands of responses from the public. The 2017 WorkLink study, the 2017 Rider and Nonrider surveys, and the 2018 SMART1 study, which looked at bus rapid transit, all provided valuable information. We are also looking at Centro Ridership data and current mobility and demographic data from the U.S. Census. Each study and every person participating helped lead us to the Exploring Tomorrow's Transit project. Now we want to facilitate a more in-depth conversation about the future of transit in our region. But first, let's set the stage for future planning by looking at some recent mobility data and trends in our community. Average daily commute data was examined for the most recent available time range of 2012 to 2016. These data show where people from different towns across the region are commuting and at what rates. The largest group of commuters is people who both live and work in the city of Syracuse at just under 35,000. The northern suburbs of Clay, Cicero, and Salina also contribute nearly 20,000 daily commuters to the city. Similarly to Syracuse, the town of Clay has many people who live and work within the town boundary, totaling just under 6,500 commuters. What might not be expected is just over 20,000 people from within Syracuse commute out of the city to work in the suburbs. Of those that commute out of the city, DeWitt is the largest single destination with around 7,000 commuters. Because the most recent commuter flow data available from the census is from 6 to 10 years ago, there are recent employment changes to keep in mind. Suburban employment destinations have grown along Taft Road, Morgan Road, Malloy Road, and Northern Boulevard in the northern suburbs. The Amazon Fulfillment Center outside Liverpool has brought even more commuters to that area, and the recent announcement about the Micron facility at White Pine Commerce Park in Clay needs to be considered in future planning. When thinking of making adaptations to the transit system, each part of the commuter flow should be considered. We also looked at data about how people across our planning area are currently commuting. Looking at a 5-year average between 2016 and 2020, 8% of workers within the city of Syracuse used public transit, compared to 1% of workers in the remainder of our planning area. According to this survey, the neighborhoods with the largest amounts of ridership are in the north side, SU's South Campus, and across the city's southwest neighborhoods. Even with the increased amount of people working from home, the percentages of public transit users did not change from when this survey was done 10 years ago. This indicates the shift towards working from home during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic primarily came from commuters who drove alone and not public transit users. According to a 2017 survey of over 1,000 Centro riders, the primary reason people use Centro is a lack of access to a personal vehicle. Because of this, we looked at vehicle ownership data from 2016 to 2020 from across our planning area. The city of Syracuse has the most heavily concentrated area of households with no vehicles, with some additional pockets in villages around the county. Zooming into Syracuse, 2 communities are identified as having particularly high rates of households without vehicles: student and senior communities around SU, ESF, and Brighton Towers, as well as lower income and new American communities in the north side and south side neighborhoods nearest downtown. We examined Centro ridership data from 2019 and 2021. Ridership activity was calculated by adding the number of people getting on and off at each stop. This map shows the 2019 transit activity per mile, on major roadways, and total activity at the busiest individual stops within Onondaga County. Zooming into the core of Centro's service area shows a few corridors have substantial transit activity, including South Salina Street, James Street, Butternut Street, Lodi Street, and parts of South Ave, as well as downtown Syracuse and the SU and Hospital neighborhood. The Centro hub is, of course, the single busiest stop in the system. The next tier of busy stops includes those on the SU campus, Destiny USA, and Shop City. Other shopping centers also rank among the busiest stops in Onondaga County. Jumping to 2021 data, we see a decline in ridership across the entirety of Centro's service area. James Street and South Salina Street still stand out as very active corridors, and the North Side, Downtown, and University area stand out as neighborhoods with a lot of transit activity. Transit ridership across the country is still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. So as we plan for the future, we need to consider current data, data from before 2020, and input from the community about future expectations. In 2017, the SMTC's WorkLink study identified issues and challenges faced by workers using Centro's bus system. Overall, this analysis found Centro's geographic coverage in the urban area was good for more than half of all jobs. In the map on the right, green dots represent employment centers within a quarter mile of a Centro stop, with red dots representing those outside a quarter mile. Many employment centers are clustered within a short distance of existing transit routes, but some routes have low frequencies that can be challenging for commuters. The WorkLink study found that first shift workers were able to utilize Centro services to get to and from work, but second and third shifts lacked coverage. Additionally, some transit riders experienced long travel times, especially for those requiring a transfer at the hub. The trend toward individualized work hours poses a challenge to Centro's traditional system. As fewer people work a traditional 9-to-5 type job, more people travel to and from work outside of the traditional morning and afternoon peak commuter times. We are seeing this trend continue, especially with more people working from home some or all of the time. During the summer of 2017, the SMTC conducted 2 surveys. One survey was for Centro riders conducted primarily on board buses. The other survey was for people who did not ride Centro. These surveys were intended to help Centro plan for future service and better understand their potential market in Onondaga County. Each survey received over 1,000 responses. The first finding from the rider survey was that an overwhelming majority of current riders were satisfied with Centro service, with 91% of respondents saying Centro generally met their needs. When asked about typical destinations, the most common destination indicated by current Centro riders was Destiny USA. Destiny attracts many trips because it is both a shopping and entertainment destination, as well as a significant regional employment center. Riders were also asked about destinations they wished Centro would serve. Even though the number of responses for this question was low, the most frequent answer was service to northern suburbs, including Liverpool, North Syracuse, and the airport. The SMTC also created a survey specifically for people who did not currently use the bus and mailed 10,000 surveys to residents of Onondaga County. The goals of this survey were to understand why people do not currently use the bus and how likely they might be to use the bus in the future. Over 1,000 surveys were returned. Of those who responded, about 2/3 said they commuted by driving alone, with most others saying they did not work. When asked why they did not use Centro for their commute, the largest group of people responded that they need their car during the time they are at work or school. Nearly 1/3 of respondents to this question chose other, with the most common write-in answer indicating they prefer the freedom or convenience of a car. It is also notable the lack of a bus line near someone's home is a more common issue than the lack of a bus near their place of employment. When non-riders were asked if they would consider taking the bus for their commute if their existing concerns were addressed, only 27% said yes. However, when asked if they would consider using Centro for any other types of trips other than their commute, 55%, or nearly 600 non-riders, indicated they would consider taking Centro for a special event such as the New York State Fair, a sports event, or a concert. There are many pressing matters facing Centro today. In September of 2021, Centro had around 75% of its pre-COVID drivers, needing to hire 50 drivers to function at its best. This led to significant service cuts in September of 2021, as well as a recruitment campaign that brought over 1,000 applications and 54 filled positions in operations, maintenance, and administration. However, even with the new recruits, retention issues have kept driver positions open. Interestingly, ridership has not increased as expected with recently high gas prices. Compared to the last period of significant gas price hikes in 2008, when Centro Ridership vastly increased, the most recent high gas price has not led to a similar increase in ridership. This can be due to the introduction of ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft, as well as the shift towards working from home and during off-peak hours. As Centro builds back its system from these temporary service cuts, we, as a whole community, need to think about how to build back smarter. What should our future transit system look like? Many solutions and ideas for our community have already been explored by the SMTC, Centro, and others. Keeping all of this in mind, let's step back and examine some ideas and examples of how public transit can help meet our community's wants and needs. The 2017 WorkLink study also drew 3 significant conclusions to fill the gaps in our public transit. Modified van pooling, like a larger scale coordinated Uber or Lyft, was found to be a viable option for meeting the needs of underserved communities. Local organizations such as Providence Services of Syracuse already provide a similar shuttle service to employed people in need of transportation. Finally, the vehicles of other human service organizations in Central New York that would otherwise be left unused overnight could be utilized as a van pool fleet to meet the commuting needs of people working 2nd and 3rd hour shifts. In 2018, the SMTC completed the Syracuse Metropolitan Area Regional Transit Study, Phase 1, otherwise known as the SMART1 Study. This study evaluated bus rapid transit, abbreviated BRT, and light rail transit, abbreviated LRT, for 2 intersecting corridors located primarily in the city of Syracuse. The corridors were selected in a previous study as the most likely corridors in the region to successfully support enhanced transit. The SMART1 study examined numerous factors impacting the feasibility of BRT and LRT, such as station locations, costs, and environmental factors. The study concluded that a BRT system operating in mixed traffic on existing streets would be the most cost-effective and viable option to enhance transit in our community. A BRT system would provide a higher-level transit experience for riders. The proposed BRT system resulting from the SMART1 study consists of 2 lines, SU to Destiny, USA, and the Regional Transportation Center represented in purple on the map, and Eastwood to OCC represented in orange. These corridors were selected because they are most likely to attract high ridership and be successful right from the start. Additional expansions of the BRT system could be explored in the future to connect more neighborhoods and destinations in our community. The BRT system would have transfer points at the Centro Hub, as well as a station near St. Joseph's Hospital. As proposed, this system would include about 30 stations, spaced about 1/4 to half a mile apart. This results in faster, more frequent, and more reliable service to connect residents across much of the city to key employment and education destinations. Some buses serving all existing stops would likely remain in these corridors as well. BRT stations typically provide more amenities than regular bus stops, and these stations encourage economic development around the BRT routes. A BRT system in Syracuse would support ongoing efforts to revitalize urban mixed-use corridors, such as the South Avenue corridor. One nearby city that has successfully implemented a BRT system is Albany, with the BusPlus system. Since April 2011, the Capital District Transit Authority has seen 20% ridership gains with BRT. Recently, construction has started on the Purple Line, the 3rd corridor of BusPlus, which will include a dedicated busway along SUNY Albany's campus. It is expected to expand the system from 32 miles of rapid bus service to 40. This shows BRT is not only possible, but has proven to be successful in a community similar to ours. Localized on-demand services have also been implemented in both Rochester and Albany. In Rochester, RTS On Demand helps to serve 6 community zones located outside RTS's traditional service zone to connect them to the bus network. Albany's system takes a different approach to provide curb-to-curb service within areas with access to a traditional bus service. Now let's take a step back again and look at the bigger picture. Many county residents rely on Centro because they do not have access to a personal vehicle. 80% of riders use Centro because they don't have access to one. Other reasons people ride Centro include reducing transportation costs, gaining environmental benefits, and wanting more diverse mobility options. Centro has great geographic coverage across the city, as well as in population and shopping centers in the suburbs. Among riders, Centro has a high satisfaction rate at 91%. Yet for non-riders, only a quarter of people would consider using Centro even if their individual wants and needs were met. Ridership activity is concentrated on some key corridors within the urban core, especially those that connect education and shopping destinations. Commuting is more than just driving into the city. For 35,000 people, their commute stays entirely within the city of Syracuse. Also, over 20,000 people commute out of the city every day. Finally, cost-effective opportunities exist to expand service beyond a traditional bus system for people who can and will use them. A bus rapid transit system, van pooling, and on-demand services all can provide specialized services to meet community needs. Nearby, similarly sized regions are already implementing these options successfully and can provide models for options to explore in Syracuse and Onondaga County. So, what are we trying to learn with exploring tomorrow's transit? As this presentation has shown, we already have a lot of data about mobility in our community, but we really want to dig in deeper to understand the community's future needs. A large part of this conversation will be about how to provide transit service that meets the needs of a broad swath of the community with the limited resources available. This may include a discussion about balancing frequency on the urban core routes with geographic coverage further into the suburbs. We'll also discuss whether different service options might be better suited to serving different types of trips. We recognize that lack of convenient transportation can be a barrier to employment, and that transit is an important piece of the workforce development puzzle. At the same time, we know that Centro is used by many community members for trips other than commuting to work or school. People use Centro to go shopping, go to medical appointments, and visit friends and family. What options best meet each of these needs? Where does traditional bus service work really well? Or are there modifications to existing routes that could make traditional bus service more effective and efficient? Are there types of trips or certain areas of the community that can be better served by new options, such as flexible van pools or bike sharing, rather than traditional bus service? These are some of the questions we are thinking about in exploring tomorrow's transit. You can help us answer these questions. As a first step, please take our community engagement survey. The survey includes the topics we discussed in this presentation. The feedback we gather from the survey will help us form more detailed and more nuanced questions to discuss in later stages of this effort. We are anticipating some open houses where you'll have the opportunity to engage directly with SMDC and Centro staff. Ultimately, we are working towards some community discussion meetings where we will engage small group conversations to really get into the details of how people use the Centro system right now and how it could better meet the needs of the whole community in the future. Keep checking our website for updates about this effort, or better yet, sign up for our email list. We will send out updates about this effort, including opportunities to participate in future discussions. Thank you for your time.